The one-sided relationship. That's what I'm going to talk about today, but I'm smiling just as I start this video because I just looked in the monitor. And if you are wondering, because you watched some of my other videos, do I now have red hair? The answer is no. I do think, yes, I look a little bit like Carrot Top without all the curls and the fluff. But if I don't happen to have a ton of hair product in my hair looks lighter like this, which is why it looks, I think, basically kind of red in the light. But anyhow, that is not what this video is about. This video is about a relationship issue from my general playlist of relationship advice videos here on my YouTube channel. And specifically, I want to talk a little bit about the one-sided relationship. Do you know how many people are in a relationship that feels one-sided to them? Often these are relationships maybe that have been going on, let's say 6 months, a year, could even be, a couple of years. Sometimes two, once a long-term relationship has been going, could be just two long-term partners or even in a marriage. Sometimes long into the marriage or the long-term relationship, a person can start to feel like, wait a minute, something changed in our dynamic. And all of a sudden it seems like I'm doing all the work. This relationship feels one-sided. But here's the important point. I always think whenever you deal with an issue that's an emotional sort of life challenge that you're dealing with, it's really important, I think, to remember that there are probably many other people dealing with that type of issue too. Their issue, it may not look exactly the same. For example, a person could be dating somebody at 4 months into the dating relationship, and they look at somebody who is married for 15 years. And that might look on the surface like they have completely different situations. But actually, if you really heard the stories of each of them and how each of those two people feel, both of them could actually be sharing a very universal feeling, which is the feeling of being stuck in a one-sided relationship. So it's always helpful, I believe, to try to boil down whatever emotional issue you're dealing with, to try to boil it down to the root. What is the problem that I'm experiencing right now? Is this a sort of human nature problem that many other people experience? And the answer is yes, because relationships, romantic relationships, are such a common type of relationship for people to have. And it is inevitable that some people will start getting a little lazy in those relationships and stop giving so much. And I can tell you, as a psychologist for many years, that yes, I can tell you firsthand, this is a very common problem. Okay, how do you know if you're in a relationship that is one-sided? And you know what? You can just ask yourself the most basic question in the world. And it's this one. Have I felt on many different occasions now that I am in a one-sided relationship? Have I looked at my circumstances, my situation? Have I compared myself now as a pattern over a period of time to my partner? Have I felt as a pattern that, yep, it's true. It has come to the point where I feel I am in a one-sided relationship? If the answer is yes, the odds are that this relationship has become fairly one-sided for you. Why? Because people don't want to believe, nobody wants to believe that their relationship is one-sided. Nobody wants to feel the frustration that comes with that, the sadness that comes with that. Nobody wants to feel those feelings. Deep down, I believe we all have a little kid inside of us that really wants to feel listened to and cared for and nurtured and noticed. So that's how we really truly want to feel. So when a person has gotten to a point in their relationship where, as a pattern, they have felt like this relationship has become one-sided, they can usually trust themselves that there's truth to that. I want to make sure when we define it I'm clear about how I mean it. A one-sided relationship doesn't mean one person does 100% of the work and the other person does zero. Yes, in any relationship, odds are that the other person is doing some things. Maybe they are showing some signs of affection. Maybe they are providing some things in the relationship. Maybe they are doing some things for their partner, but it feels minimal to the other person. So the point is, the relationship feels more one sided. When you're in a relationship that's one sided, you feel that you are simply giving significantly more than the other person. And what I want to do is just sort of explain some of the ways that a person can feel like their relationship has become one sided. One example is in the giving of attention. So, if you're in a one sided relationship, you may feel like you ask the other person questions about their day and their life. You notice the other person's feelings. You try to engage them in conversation. You are still curious about how they're doing, about how their day is, what's happening in their daily life. You are interested. You feel invested in them. And so you are giving significantly more attention. Well, if you're in a one sided relationship, you may feel that the other person just simply doesn't show a significant amount of attention in return. It doesn't feel reciprocal or mutual. They don't ask you a lot of questions about your life or how you feel or what you're thinking. They don't seem to show a lot of interest in what you do during the day, what projects you might be working on, what experiences you're having during the week. In terms of plans, if you're in a one sided relationship, you may feel like you are the one who is taking the initiative and making plans, making suggestions about getting together and what to do, coordinating events and dinners or maybe vacations. But you are doing the work in that way, while the other person who is not putting in the work just seems to sort of be a receiver of it. And what's important is they're receiving it, but they also don't seem to be really appreciative of it and show respect and appreciation for the fact that you're doing all that work for them. See, in a good relationship, two people can have different roles in the relationship. One person can be the planner and the coordinator, and the other person can be somebody who doesn't do that stuff. But the person who doesn't do that stuff really acknowledges and validates what a value that planner and coordinator brings, how much they appreciate it. So it works. See, in the one sided relationship, it's not working because not only are you, if it's one sided, finding yourself giving more, but you're also feeling that the giving isn't being sufficiently appreciated or even acknowledged. Okay. Now, another thing that you may feel if you're in a one sided relationship is that you are doing more practical work. You are doing more practical everyday behaviors, could be chores or more of the errand running, more of the driving, more of the cooking, more of the cleaning. If you have children, it may be you are doing more of the managing all things related to children and appointments and making the lunches and caring for them and the emotional needs you're meeting. So it could be very practical daily things that you are doing significantly more of, while the other person just seems to be sort of like, thank goodness they're not asking me. Another way that this can show up is in the physical affection that happens in an adult relationship. So if you're in a one-sided relationship, you may feel like you are making all the overtures for physical intimacy. You are reaching out to them, showing interest in connecting with them physically, while they simply aren't. They either seem disinterested or just checked out altogether. And if you're somebody where the physical connection is important, this can feel like a really big loss. For you, you may feel like you need some level of physical intimacy in order to feel properly emotionally attached. So if that's missing, if this relationship is one-sided in that way, for you, this may be a problem. These are just a few of the ways that you may feel that you are in a relationship that is one sided. Ultimately, A one-sided relationship is frustrating and incredibly unsatisfying. Incredibly unsatisfying. It can breed bitterness, staying in a relationship that's one sided for too long. And so, one of the things, if this is you, that you can do is you can think about, well, do you have a plan for how you are going to go about dealing with the feelings that get stirred up when you think about a one sided relationship? And simple examples are starting therapy, getting good self help books. I wrote a book myself about people who repeat the same negative relationship patterns over and over again. It's almost like they get stuck on a hamster wheel, finding partners who really won't make them feel satisfied and happy. And that's just one example of a book, but there are many self help books that you can turn to. All right. We'll keep talking about these on my channel where I have all sorts of videos on relationship advice for you. I'm Dr. Seth, psychologist.